Hi everybody, it's Dina here from Catchy Crafts again. Today I'm going to be talking to you about some mixed media techniques on a card. From the last video I had some people say, can you show us a simple technique to do a mixed media card? So what I've done is I've constructed a few cards, and I have and here they are to show you. So just very simple techniques using a variety of media just to make a card, you know, that has a few other elements in it. So we're going to construct a card similar to this, and I can show you how to do it step by step. Hopefully I haven't mucked anything up. Now I'm going to use our multifarious card, but before I do, I am actually going to coat it in gesso. Gesso just gives me a good surface then to be adding a lot of media onto it without the card buckling or going pitty or anything like that. So I'm using gesso. This is a Cadence gesso, which is every product that I'm using is on our website. We've also put together a little kit, so if you want to make cards like this, we've got a little starter kit that has all the products necessary to make cards like these ones that I'm showing you here. So this is the gesso from Cadence. It's quite a thick gesso, which is great for a lot of techniques, but for this particular technique I need it to be a bit thinner. So I'm just going to get a little bit out like that, put it onto my great old Teflon mat. If you don't have a Teflon mat, trust me, you need one. Anybody doing any craft needs a Teflon mat. Then I'm going to get a really big brush that I've had for years and I absolutely love. I'm trying to source them at the moment because I just love these brushes. They just, only because they're quick. So I'm just going to really mix that up and make it really sloppy. I just want a watery gesso. Okay. You can buy gesso that is just watery, but then I figure you have to have two, and this way I only have to have one type of gesso. So, and just give it a coat. Just want a coat so to make sure that everything else I do on here, the paper will be protected. So there it is, and I'll let that dry. Because I knew that I was going to be doing this, I've actually got one that's already dry, so I'll move on to that one. So this is a piece of gesso that is already dry, so I'm just going to give this a bit of a clean. The next step is I went to the $2, well, not to a shop, vintage store, and bought an old dictionary. So I'm just going to use a bit of this paper and tear it. You could use scrapbooking papers, you could use whatever you want. I'm just using this. And I'm using the transfer and decoupage medium from Cadence. Now the reason, you can use any decoupage mediums. I just really like, there's about 3 of them in the Cadence range, and I like all 3 of them. This happens to be the one that is on my table, and it goes a long way. It's quite a nice liquid one, so I'm going to use that one. And using a different brush here. Sorry, I just realized I'm talking too fast, so I have to slow down. So once again, I'm going to get a bit of that onto my Teflon mat and apply it to the back of the paper quite liberally. I like applying a lot of it because I don't want anything to get wrinkled afterwards, so I need to apply that to the back. So I'm just going to get that and stick it onto my paper. Oh, there we go. And a bit of it over the top. Just cleaning off the brush there, just to make sure every little thing is stuck. Okay, so you've got the paper now stuck on with the gesso. Okay, stick that in the water, clean up that off my page. At this stage, I will have to use the heat gun just to give it won't need a lot of heating, but just a little bit to get this going. So now I've got that stuck. Once I've got that, I don't want that to be really defined. I don't want that to be the main part of my work. So I'm actually going to make this gesso here even waterier. So I don't think that's a word, but anyway, just make it really just like a wash. I love making mess. It's really funny because I normally don't like mess in my life, but in my craft, yeah. So I'm just going to give it a wash, just so you don't see any really defined areas. Okay. All right, so you want see how the paper's not buckling and all that? And that's because I coated it first with gesso. Now, let that dry. I'm so cold and I need the heat gun to heat my hands up. Almost done. It doesn't really take that long. Now I need to clean my area a little bit because it is a mess. Should have just had another Teflon mat here ready to put on next time. Can you open me those baby wipes, please? Woo. Oh, good. Just give it another good wipe. Now, I'm going to add a bit of colour to this. Now, you can use a lot of different products to add colour, but what I'm going to do is use the Spectrum Aquas. I love these pens, and I'm doing a whole demonstration on using these pens, but I'm just going to use these pens to show you how to add a little bit of colour. So, and for that, I am also using the water brush. Like, this is the Crafts for You flat water brush. And all you do to get the water is you squeeze it and it wets the bristles and it just gives you a nice wet, damp effect. So I'm just going to scribble some of this colour onto my Teflon mat. So just a few different colours. I need a lot of this colour, so I'm going to make sure I've got a lot of this one. Bit of yellowy colour. It doesn't matter what colours you want to use. I just happen to be using this one this time. And a bit of green. So you now have a few colours on your palette. You can come back and add some more later. Just tidying. And you see I can just give it a wash. Not sure if you can... Are you focused on this? Just a wash. A bit more water on there. Going to get a bit of yellow. Want a hint of colour. That green's a bit intense. I need to water that down a bit. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Alright, so the next thing is I've done a hint of colour, so you see that. You get very different results depending on what colour you've used. Here I've done one with the blues on them. Here I've decided to go more green. Whatever. On one of these cards I added a bit of pink because I was going to put a pink flower. So whatever hint of colour you want to put in. So it doesn't, the colour's not supposed to overwhelm the work, at least not for me. the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a texture stamp, and this, it could be any texture. I'm using text here, but I do have a lot of different other ones. Some of them are little spots, whatever texture you want to use. And I'm going to use this Narwhal by Lawn Fawn. I like this color because it's not green, it's not brown, it's like an in-between color, which is a very useful color to have. And I don't want it to be intense, so I'm going to stamp off first and then just put a couple of that color around the edges, just to create a bit of texture. So you've got that. See how the Narwhal, it's not that intense color, it's actually a really nice soft color for backgrounds. It's a really lovely color to have in your repertoire. All right, so I've got that. The next thing I'm going to do is add a bit of texture paste. So because we want to make it like a mixed media card, so I'm going to add a little bit of texture paste, and for that I'm using the Cadence. I love this stencil. There's about 4 in the collection that I really love. Shabby hearts, shabby triangles, shabby circles, I think it is. There might even be another one, and it's MA21, so it's a really lovely stencil to have. And I really like this one. I use it a fair bit, and I'm using the Shabby Chic texture paste by Cadence. Now remember, when you go to store these, a tip is to always put Vaseline around the lid so it doesn't go hard, and it doesn't stick together, sorry. And also I've been putting some what is that called? Sticky tape around the lid once I've put it on, just so it prevents it going hard. I don't want the air getting into it at all, because these things cost you a fair bit of money and you don't want them to dry out before you've used it. And I spray water. So now I've just got to see the texture paste coming up. So I'm about to store this, and so before I store it, I give it a few good spritz of water. I've already put Vaseline around the edge, so I don't need to do that again. I'll put this on, and then I have sticky tape, always in my craft room. So I've got the sticky tape, and all I do is put it around the lid like that. I'll put a bit on the top so I know where to get it, and then rub it right in so that it's nicely sealed. Do that for the gesso as well. So now I've got a background that I'm going to be working on. Just going to give this a quick dry. It's all the drying time that's a little bit cumbersome, but they do dry fairly fast, which is a great characteristic of all the Cadence products. They do dry very fast, so you don't have to wait too long. So there it is, just a nice background dried. Now I'm just going to start assembling a card. What I've got here is I've got these little frames. Now if you don't have chipboard frames like these, you can actually make your own just for using 2 dies, 2 of the nesting dies. Just use 2 nesting dies. I did have a set here on my table, and just make multiple layers. So get cardstock and cut about 4 or 5 layers, glue them together, and you'll have a nice thick element to put on if you don't have chipboard. So if you also have a Sizzix, the Bigs die, there is a few frames that you can die cut, and they do die cut chipboard. But if you don't have it, here's one that I actually painted earlier with, I've used the Cadence, it's called Majestic Gold. I've used that to put on, and I start assembling it. Now I also have a few little words from the Crafts for You wooden embellishments. I've got some bird cages. I can't speak today. So I just start using some of those elements and start putting it together. Not a flower. Now with this flower, this was a white flower, and what I did, I got the finger rubs. I'm not sure if you've seen these before. they're like a paste, quite a hard paste, and they're actually a finger rub. So you actually pick it up with the colour. They're great for highlighting things. It's a finger wax. And so I can then highlight areas of my work. So I can just add, whoops, with my finger, I would add to a highlight. I can also get my finger, is this dry yet? I've got one here that's a little bit drier. This is one I was playing with earlier. And I can actually rub it along the tops of some of the hearts, just to give it that really nice gold hint. And these do grow hard, so don't worry about it. If they're hard, try not to make them really, really hard. So make sure every so often you give them a little bit of moisture. You don't want them too hard, because then you have to wait until it reconstitutes with water. So, but they are a little bit on the hard side. And they're just called finger rubs. They're great for adding highlights to things. You know, you can, I'm not sure if you can see it because I lost my helper, but you just get a nice hint of gold. And the same thing on the flowers. I'm not sure if you can see that. Then a nice hint of gold. So that's one of the elements that you've done. So then you start putting all your elements together. I could use a frame if I wanted. So, but those are the sort of things, and you can add that, a bit of ribbon, and you end up with something like this. So here I didn't actually put the texture paste in the background. I thought about that afterwards. But you start layering all your bits and pieces. Go through your cupboard and see everything you can get together. These are just things that I had in my cupboard from ages ago, and I just started putting them together so that you get a mixed media card. Now we do have a kit for you if you want them, where you get the, let's see if I can remember everything. You get the gesso, you get one of the, oh, here it is. Dun's brought it for me. So you want to angle the camera up, please. So in this kit, you will get these three wooden embellishments. You get some flowers. You get a metallic paint. You also get the decoupage medium that I used. You get the gesso. You get the narwhal. You get the flat water brush, which is very useful. You get one of my favorite stencils, which is the one that I use, the hearts. And I'm also chucking in one of these little frames from my collection. I had quite a few, so the first, I think, 15 people or 20 people will get one of these little frames in there as well. And that is, I will put on the details on our website on the post about how much it all costs and how you can get it. Do you know how much it costs?
Well, it's $65.25 is the street value, and then there'll be a bundle deal on the show specials.
Yeah, we'll put a bundle deal on that. Okay, thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye.